Hello, I'm Bruce Sawalski. I'm author of Canadian Wilderness Survival, chief instructor of the Boreal Wilderness Institute, and today I want to talk about picking a survival knife. So if you like to learn real survival skills, then please follow me on YouTube and like this video. So today I want to talk about picking a survival knife. So in other words, how do I go from this to this around my neck? And why did I pick a certain knife? And what does a survival knife really have to be? So the first thing to understand is this multi-tool isn't a survival knife. That knife is not of the quality or size that I actually need if I want to survive. What do we end up with though? We often end up with survival knives for the north. And there I'm talking about survival in temperate climates, not in the jungle, not in the desert, but a survival knife in cold climates. That's where I teach in Canada. That's what I'm going to teach you in terms of how to pick and choose a survival knife. Someone from the jungle, skilled in the jungle environment, really knowledgeable in that, may say, no, in the jungle we do this for the following reasons. And I know a lot of those differences because there really is a lot of differences for a lot of good reasons. So here's the deal. Good survival knife number one is carbon steel. Carbon steel is 20% faster to sharpen and stays sharp 20% longer. What's the problem with carbon steel? Well, when I look at one of my knives that I actually use, you go, well, it looks a little ugly, Bruce. It's kind of getting scummy. It doesn't look like it just came out of the package. That's life. Number two, it's a hand to a hand and a half wide. So a hand to a hand and a half wide. Anything bigger essentially becomes a jungle knife. You do not need that big a blade. And what happens with those heavy blades are you're not using your brains, you're using your brawn. And one of the first things I teach out in the woods is to use this with a baton. So in other words, we don't have to have that. But to use a baton, we need the third step on a survival knife, which is a flat top. That flat top allows us to pound. Now, we may also, and I'll show you in a bit, one of the knives has a sharp edge, so I can do that. And these knives' edges can be sharpened. So I've sharpened them before. One of the instructors up from Cold Lake, John MacArthur, sharpens every single knife he gives out, right? Absolutely. Sends them puts them on the grinder, sharpens them up, and done. Right? I always consider that something, if you want to do it, do it. If not, you don't. But it's there. It's an option, and it's very, very important. But it has to have a flat top to do that. It's got to have a handle or grip that's comfortable. Now, a lot of times I see people say, I don't want to get rid of this, or I want to take out this handle piece with the grip. Right? And that's a safety piece. And someone says, hey, if I was really, really good, I wouldn't need it. Right? And this is what I remember as a younger survival instructor being told, oh, you don't need that, shave it off. And we used to grind them off because we didn't want Morris to call us kids. But there was a problem with that. And as I discovered, when it's 40 below and I'm in a pair of mitts and I'm trying to do the same work, that's gone. I have actually less ability to do it. So someone says, well, no, but if you need to carve really, really well and cool stuff, well, then I can pull my old Moro knife and carve nicely. Because it doesn't matter. Because if all I have to do is carve, things are going pretty good. I'm not in a real survival situation. It's not 40 below, it's not blowing wind, and I don't need to make some notches really, really fast, but my hands are so cold, I gotta stay in my mitts. So, good survival knife has those characteristics. This is a Moro 511. It's a standard survival knife that they've changed some of the plastic work now, but it's got a nice it's got a nice grip. It feels good. It's made of high quality plastic. It's got a proper Scandi blade. That Scandi blade sharpens the entire side. It's a super sharp knife. Scandi blades are always going to be better than a conventional blade in terms of sharpness. And if you have a sharper knife, you need to use what? Less brawn. So what else do we have? Well, there's the Pro C. This is what Moro would call a medium weight kind of knife, and it's got a nicer handle. I use this thing all the time. It's a wonderful beautiful knife. They last a few years, always, without any problem. Cost-wise, well, 511 will cost you $15. This is less than 20. Right, it's an amazing knife. Go buy it. They're all over the place. Amazingly good knife, right? It tells you everything you need in a survival knife, and it's light enough I can carry it around my neck, which is a really important thing. So what if you want to move up from there? You say, Bruce, some reason I can't have a $20 knife because it's got to be cheap. Well, the problem with that is the next move up would be a custom-made knife. So here's a great example of that. This is a Camrat companion knife, and it's custom made in the United States by LT Wright. And this was designed by Jason and Ben, most importantly by Ben's Backwoods, who also sells the knife. And he never gave me a discount on this knife, so I'm just going to say it's one of the nicest knives I've ever had. The only thing about it is it's high tang steel. It's incredibly good. It does have a Scandi blade. It has everything, but it's still heavy. Now, what's the advantage? Well, here's mine with a striker on it, and I can pull that striker out and get a really good edge, right? It works really, really well. But I find it's too heavy to go around my neck. Even though some people do that, I just find it's kind of annoying, and I like to have a nice light knife. So this knife is fantastic. It came with a beautiful edge, which is just wonderful when you want to actually get sparks on this. You can get real sparks off this knife. It is fantastic knife, and again, custom made, handmade in the United States. Beautiful knife, right? What's the difference though? This one will cost you $160 US plus shipping, about $200 Canadian. It's not a cheap knife. The rest of the knives I've seen that are custom made, that are of that quality, are even more expensive, not cheaper. So now suddenly you're spending big bucks on a knife. And as I like to say, if you spend $400 on a knife, it should build your camp for you like the droid in Star Wars. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. That's what it should be doing for me. And this knife at $15 will do the job. I carried one of these Morrow 511s for 20 years before I moved up to the Pro C, which is a little bit heavier. And I know I do like the Camrat companion knife. It's a beautiful knife. It works really, really well. But you know what I find? I use it when I'm training. I use it on courses. And if I'm going to go hiking, I just don't pick it up. Instead, I go back to my Pro C and say that. So what do we need for a survival knife? Should have a decent locking sheath. Should have an ability so I can put that around my neck. So like there, I can fire that around my neck, pull out and use the knife, drop it back in place. What's the basis of a knife? Carbon steel, not stainless steel. The only stainless steel knives I ever use is on my life jacket. Hand to a 1.5 hand wide, flat topped, optional, sharp edge. That's the deal. That's a proper survival knife. High quality carbon steel, strong, able to be pounded and used with a baton because it's got a flat top. So that's the difference. If you want a good survival knife, it doesn't mean an expensive survival knife. More of Sweden produces a full range of high quality knives. After that, you jump up to handmade knives. And those handmade knives are going to be expensive. They're not going to be cheap, and if they're a little heavier weight, they got a little bit more, that might be something you really want. Again, use of a baton stops a lot of that. You want to buy a survival knife? Look around. Don't pick the first one. Ask the people that tell you, this is the greatest survival knife. Why? I'll tell you why this is the greatest survival knife, because I can afford a lot of them. And I can put one inside survival kits and all this kind of stuff, and I don't go bankrupt doing it, right? That makes a big, big difference. High quality carbon steel, made in a quality factory with proper workmanship. That makes a big difference, right? You want to move up to a real knife and get yourself that, and just understand I can buy 10 other knives for the price of this one, which is why I only have one of these. Carry a proper knife, have it with you all the time, meaning have it where you can carry it and take it. So, if you like this useful life-saving survival knowledge that you learn on this channel, then please support me by following me on YouTube, listening and liking other videos on this channel. And I have a lot of gear, a lot of fire lighting videos and things that if you like knives and you like to go to the woods, you'll like to listen to that life-saving knowledge. And by following me on Boreal Wilderness Institute on Facebook. So thank you, stay safe, and if you're stranded in the wilderness, then just always remember, stop and survive.